Hello everyone, welcome to TryRide. This is Pack 365, myself Srija. So today you are going to learn about the physiology of the cardiovascular system. So in this session you are going to learn about the circulation pathways, the cardiac output and also the electrical conduction of the system. So physiology of the cardiovascular system. So the cardiovascular system, it works continuously to pump the blood, deliver the oxygen and nutrients to body tissues. It also removes the waste products like carbon dioxide and it maintains the homeostasis is nothing but to stable internal environment. So this includes the circulation pathways, the heart's pumping action, the electrical conduction, and also the regulation of the blood pressure and cardiac output. So what are the major circulation pathways? So this cardiovascular system, it has three main types of circulation. So each serving a specific purpose. So coming to the systemic circulation. So systemic circulation, it is a pathway that carries the oxygenated blood from the heart to all parts of the body except the lungs, and also it brings the deoxygenated blood back to the heart. So what is the purpose of the systemic circulation? So it is to supply oxygen and nutrients to all the body tissues. So to remove the oxygen, the carbon dioxide and waste products from the body cells. So what is the pathway for the systemic circulation? It's also called as the body circulation. So left ventricle to aorta. The left ventricle, it pumps oxygen rich blood into the aorta, which is the largest artery, and then aorta to arteries and arteries to arterioles and also to the capillaries of the body tissues. So blood travels through arteries and smaller arterioles to reach the capillaries in the blood tissues or in the body tissues. So in capillaries, what is happening? Oxygen is delivered to the cells and carbon dioxide is collected from them. So then from capillaries, the deoxygenated blood moves from the capillaries into small veins called as venules and then into the larger veins. So all the deoxygenated blood from the body, it returns to the heart's right atrium through the superior vena cava from head and upper body, inferior vena cava from lower body. So what are the points you have to remember about the systemic circulation? It supplies the entire body except the lungs. So it is the largest circulation pathway. It maintains the tissue oxygenation. It ensures every body cell gets oxygen and nutrients. So here you can see the picture of systemic circulation. The red color one, it represents the oxygenated blood which is rich in oxygen, whereas blue side, it represents the deoxygenated blood which is rich in carbon dioxide. So here the blood moves from the left ventricle through the body tissues through right atrium. It shows the direction of the blood flow. In this picture, it shows the direction of the blood flow out from the heart via arteries and back to the heart via the veins. So this is about the systemic circulation. And now coming to the pulmonary circulation. So what do you mean by pulmonary circulation? It's a pathway that carries the deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs to exchange the gases. So what does it do? It picks up the oxygen and releases the carbon dioxide, and then it returns to the oxygenated blood back to the heart. So what is the purpose of the pulmonary circulation? To oxygenate the blood by transporting it to the lungs for gaseous exchange. So what is the step-by-step pathway of the pulmonary circulation? First, the right ventricle, it pumps deoxygenated blood into the pulmonary trunk. So this pulmonary trunk, from pulmonary trunk, the blood travels through the pulmonary arteries to reach the both lungs. So these are the only arteries that carry the deoxygenated blood. And from then inside the lungs, the blood flows through tiny capillaries around the sacs called as alveoli. And here in the alveoli, the oxygen enters the blood and carbon dioxide leaves the blood to be exhaled. So after lung capillaries, then going to pulmonary veins. So now this pulmonary vein, it is now oxygen rich blood, right? It returns to the heart through the pulmonary veins. So these are the only veins that carry the oxygenated blood. So this blood enters to the finally to the left atrium, ready to be sent to the body via the systemic circulation. So what are the main points over here? Right ventricle to lungs to left atrium. This is the process how the blood flows. Pulmonary arteries are the deoxygenated blood. Pulmonary veins, they carry the oxygenated blood. So the main function of this pulmonary circulation is the gaseous exchange or oxygen, taking of oxygen inside and breathing of carbon dioxide outside. So here again it is a picture over here for pulmonary circulation. The blood color vessels, the blue color vessels which show the deoxygenated blood, right? They are flowing from the right ventricle to the lungs. So here the lungs acts as the site of the gaseous exchange. So which is the main function of the pulmonary circulation. So this is about the pulmonary circulation. And now let's talk about the coronary circulation. So what do you mean by the coronary circulation? It is also called as the heart muscle blood supply. So what do you mean? It is a blood supply system of the heart itself. Although the heart pumps blood for the whole body, it also needs its oxygen, right? It also needs its own oxygen and nutrients to function. So this is provided by the coronary arteries. So what is the main purpose of the coronary circulation? To supply the oxygenated blood to the myocardium, which is nothing but the heart muscle, and also removing of the deoxygenated blood after the use. So what is the step-by-step pathway for the coronary circulation? From aorta. It starts right from the aorta. When blood leaves the left ventricle, it enters the aorta. From the aorta, the right and left coronary arteries branch off near its base. So from then, the right and left coronary arteries, the heart muscle, the left coronary artery divides into the left anterior descending artery and also the circumflex artery. So this LAD, the left anterior descending artery, it supplies to the front of the heart, whereas the circumflex artery, it supplies the blood to side and back side of the heart. And there is also the right coronary artery which supplies the right side and bottom of the heart. And myocardium. So in myocardium you have the cardiac veins. So after delivering oxygen, the blood becomes deoxygenated. It is called as collected by the cardiac veins. So all the cardiac veins then they drain into a large vein called as coronary sinus, which empties into right atrium. So what you have to remember, the coronary circulation nourishes the heart muscle. So without it, the heart cells would die, and blockage in a coronary artery, it leads to angina or the heart attack. So here clearly you can see the picture over here, the right coronary artery, the left coronary artery, the circumflex artery, and the left anterior descending artery, nothing but LAD. So these are all the arteries which helps to complete the coronary circulation pathway. So next, coming to hepatic portal circulation. It is also called as the river blood flow. So what do you mean by hepatic portal circulation? It carries the nutrient-rich blood from the digestive organs like stomach, intestine, spleen, and pancreas to the liver for processing, storage, and detoxification. So what is the pathway of the hepatic portal circulation? It starts from the digestive organs, right? So after eating, the blood from the stomach, intestine, spleen, and pancreas, they absorb the nutrients like glucose, amino acids, and vitamins. So this blood, after coming from the digestive organs, they also contain the toxins or waste from the food digestion, right? And this nutrient-rich blood is collected into the hepatic portal vein. So then into the hepatic portal vein, this is a special vein that does not go directly to the heart, right? So it first goes to the liver. So inside the liver, what happens? This hepatic portal vein, it delivers into the liver sinusoids, and then here the important process takes place. What it is? So glucose is stored as glycogen, and the toxic drugs and waste are detoxified or broken down. So nutrients are also processed for use or storage. So after this, the blood leaves the liver. So after processing, the clean blood leaves through the hepatic veins. So from this hepatic veins, they drain into the inferior vena cava, which carries the blood back to the right atrium of the heart. So what points you have to remember about the hepatic portal system or circulation? The liver filters and detoxifies blood before it enters general circulation. It maintains the blood sugar levels by storing or releasing the glucose And the hepatic portal system, it ensures the liver process nutrients and toxins first before the blood it reaches the rest of the body. So what is the easy way to remember? First digestive organs, then hepatic portal vein, then liver, and then hepatic veins, then inferior vena cava, and at last it is a right atrium. So here in the diagram you can clearly see the hepatic portal vein, it carries the blood into the liver, while the hepatic veins carry the blood out of the liver into the inferior vena cava. So this is the pathway of the hepatic portal circulation. So this is all about the circulation pathways of cardiovascular system. And now coming to cardiac cycle. So what do you mean by cardiac cycle? So cardiac cycle means it's a one complete heartbeat. When the heart fills with blood, then pumps it out. So this includes two main actions. What are they? Diastole and systole. Diastole is nothing but heart relaxes and fills with the blood, whereas systole means heart contracts and it pushes blood out. So this takes about 0.8 seconds for one cycle at 75 beats per minute. So what are the steps of the cardiac cycle? Atria fill with blood, atria contract, that is atrial systole, ventricles start to contract, that is isovolume contraction, and ventricles pump blood out, it is ventricular systole, and ventricles relax, it is nothing but isovolumetric relaxation, and the blood flows into ventricles again, it's a ventricular filling. So these are all the 7 phases you can see, as you can see in this flow chart over here, and at the right side you can see the cardiac cycle picture. This picture shows how the heart relaxes and contracts. The red arrows, oxygen rich blood going into the body, and the blue arrows, the oxygen poor blood going into the lungs. So the arrows from a circle, they showing how the cycle repeats again and again. So now let's talk into the deep into the 7 phases of the cardiac cycle. So starting with the first one, ventricular diastole. And so under ventricular diastole, this is the relaxation period of the ventricles. It's nothing but it is a relaxation period for the ventricles. So when the heart fills with blood again after it has pumped. So this lasts about 0.5 seconds and it includes the 4 steps, that is atrial systole, isovolumetric ventricular relaxation, isovolumetric ventricular filling, and reduced ventricular filling. So these are all the 4 steps under the ventricular diastole. So now coming to the atrial systole. So what do you mean by atrial systole? It is also called as atria contract. So here the SA node, the sinoatrial node, also called as pacemaker, it starts the heartbeat. So the atria contract and push the last 20 to 30% of the blood into the ventricles. So this AV walls, nothing but the tricuspid and mitral walls are open, and then the semilunar walls are closed. So this completes the filling of the ventricles. Now they have entered the diastolic volume maximum of the blood before the contraction. So for example, the atria squeeze blood into the ventricles to top them up. And this is about the atrial systole. And then coming to the isovolumetric ventricular relaxation. So what do you mean by isovolumetric ventricular relaxation? The ventricles relax over here after contracting. So the semilunar walls closes, makes the second heart sound dup. All valves are closed, so no blood enters or leaves. So the ventricular pressure fails, but volume stays the same. So the ventricles are really resting, pressure drops, but no blood moves out. So this is about the isovolumetric ventricular relaxation. So next, rapid ventricular filling. So what do you mean by the rapid ventricular filling? When the ventricular pressure becomes lower than the atrial pressure, the AV walls open. So this is about the rapid ventricular filling. So in this, the blood quickly flows from atria into ventricles, and this happens passively without the contraction. And next, coming to the reduced ventricular filling, nothing but diastasis. So filling slows down as pressures in atria and ventricles become equal. So these AV walls, they remain open. This phase ends when the atria contract again and again. The next cycle begins. So what is the key idea for you to remember the ventricular diastole? During the ventricular diastole, the heart is relaxed and blood fills the ventricles. The AV walls are open and also the seminal walls are closed. So this prepares the heart for the next contraction. So here you can see a picture of the diagram at the right side. So this diagram shows how the walls open and close. So seminal walls close during the relaxation and AV walls open to allow the filling. So the steps repeat in a while, the filling, contracting and relaxing. So next coming to ventricular systole. So this is the contraction phase of the ventricles when the heart pumps blood out to the body and also the lungs. So it has three main stages. What are they? The isovolumetric ventricular contraction, rapid ventricular ejection and the reduced ventricular ejection. So what do you mean by isovolumetric ventricular contraction? Here the ventricles start to contract. The AV walls called as tricuspid and mitral walls, they close making the heart sound lub. So all walls are the closed, so the blood cannot move, the volume stays the same. So the pressure inside the ventricles rises the sharply. So what is the simple meaning of this? The ventricles squeeze, but since all walls are closed, pressure builds up inside like pressing a filled balloon with no air escaping. Now you can understand very easily. And then coming to the sixth one, the rapid ventricular ejection. So what do you mean by rapid ventricular ejection? It is when it is a ventricular pressure becomes higher than aortic or pulmonary artery pressure. So these seminal walls, aortic and pulmonary walls open. Blood is quickly pushed out into the aorta to the body and the pulmonary aorta to the lungs. So most of the stroke volume, about 70 milliliters, is ejected during this phase. So the ventricles pump blood forcefully into the arteries. So this is when you can feel your pulse. So this is about the rapid ventricular ejection. And then coming to the reduced ventricular ejection. So the ventricular contraction, it slows down, the rate of the blood flow out of the heart decreases. So the semilunar walls, they remain open until the ventricular pressure falls below the artery pressure, then they close to the prevent backflow. So the ventricles are finishing contraction here. So the less blood is pushed out and soon the walls will close to end this phase. This is about the cardiac cycle, diastole and systole and the 7 phases of the cardiac cycle. And then we are going to learn about the electrical conduction system of the heart. So what is electrical conduction system of the heart? It has its own electrical system, right? Heart has its own electrical system that makes it beat automatically and in the correct order. So first the atria contract, then the ventricles. So this ensures the blood flows properly through the heart and to the body. So what are the main parts of the conduction system? SA node, the sinoatrial node, AV node, the atrioventricular node, the bundle of His, the right and left bundle branches, and also the Purkinje fibers. So what do you mean by SA node, the sinoatrial node? In the right atrium near where the superior vena cava opens, this is located. You can clearly see in the picture over here where the sinoatrial node is located. It is located in the right atrium where the superior vena cava opens. So what is the function of this? It is a natural pacemaker of the heart. It produces the electrical impulses automatically, that is 60 to 100 times per minute. So these impulses makes the atria contract, pushing blood into the ventricles. And then AV node, the atrioventricular node. So this is located at the bottom of the right atrium. See upper, at the top you can find sinoatrial node. At the bottom you can find the atrioventricular node. So these are located at the bottom of the right atrium near the wall between the atria and ventricles. So what is the function of the AV node? It receives the impulse from the SA node and it delays it slightly. So the short delay, it allows the atria to empty the blood into the ventricles before they contract. So next, bundle of His. So what is the bundle of His? It is located into the intraventricular septum, the wall between the ventricles. So what is the function of the bundle of His? It carries the impulse from the AV node down into the ventricles. And then coming to right and left bundle branches. So what are the right and left bundle branches? What is the function of the left and right bundle branches? The impulse travels through these branches, the right branch and the left branch. So they travel down through the intraventricular septum. So what is the function? These branches carry the electrical impulses from the bundle of His down to each ventricle. The right bundle branch, it sends impulses to the right ventricle, whereas the left bundle branch, it sends the impulses to the left ventricle. So the left bundle branch, it further splits into the left anterior fascicle and left posterior fascicle. If one of these branches is damaged, it causes a bundle branch block, meaning the impulse is delayed or blocked in one ventricle. So next about the Purkinje fibers. So what are the Purkinje fibers? So they form a network that spreads throughout the walls of the ventricles. So what is the function of these fibers? These are the fastest conductors of the electrical impulses in the heart. So they quickly send the signal to all the parts of the ventricles, making both ventricles contract together. So this ensures the blood is pumped efficiently, like right ventricle to lungs and left ventricle to the body. So if higher pacemakers fail, these Purkinje fibers, they can generate impulses at 20 to 40 beats per minute. Now, how the electrical impulse travels? Step-by-step sequence. The SA node, from SA node to ventricles. In the SA node, it starts the impulse and atria contract, pushing blood into the ventricles. In AV node, it delays the impulse slightly, and then bundle of His, it carries impulses to the ventricles, and then right and left bundle branches, they deliver the impulses down each side of the septum, and then next Purkinje fibers, they spread the impulse through ventricles, and at last the ventricles contract. So in simple terms, the sinoatrial node, it starts the heartbeat. The AV node, the atrioventricular node, it delays it briefly. So the bundle of His and branches carry it downward. And at last, the Purkinje fibers, they spread it across the ventricles, making the heart pump blood effectively. So this is about the electrical conduction system of the heart and their functions. And this is about today's session, guys. In the next session, you are going to learn about the physiology of the cardiovascular system. Like you are going to learn about the cardiac output, the blood pressure regulation, and also the functions of the cardiovascular system in the next video. That is for today. Thank you.